Cooking food, sorry, in the background. We're going to create something like this, and it's just pure polygons and mapped onto this object here. Just wanted to talk. Well, there are cons and pros to using alpha maps and not using alpha maps. So here using just pure geometry, of course. Using alpha maps, it's kind of like difficult to create something like this unless you got vector displacement or something like that. And there are also other things. Sometimes it's just easier to tweak this stuff. To tweak real geometry. So of course I just leave a backup of this geometry by placing it in its own layer. Just want to show you something quick. That is, let's see, I'll put that, I'm going to smack that onto, whoops, why is that on there? Just delete that one. I'm going to smack this onto that shape, and how I'm going to do that, the way I'm going to do that is by using texture point. I'm just going to do this fast, so just call this new or something like that in the Y channel texture, and here we got the value, but the thing is that doesn't always compute. Sometimes that is the wrong value for some reason, and that happens also in the texture editor. Placing things in the set channel, it just doesn't pick up the real value, the real size. For example, here it says the height of this object is 6 meters. Well, no. So running 11.62 here, maybe that's fixed in 11.63, I don't know, but it's quite a big bug. But we can find that value by going into absolute size and copying it. So if something feels funky, then maybe you want to do that and just paste that in, because sometimes that will say 1 meter or something like that, and then your weight map is just going to be way off, really. So paste that in and you'll get the correct value. One thing I forgot was, let's see, yeah, I forgot that I was going to triple this. Now this tripling is very crude. You really don't want to do this normally. But this is kind of like what a program like ZBrush or 3D Code does. It just, you know, has tons of pixels, and that's kind of what we're replicating here. Let's go back here and do this over again. Texture, automatic sizing. You'll see that it's not quite correct here. Let's say convert that there. So I'll tweak this by dragging it. You see that, how that disappeared? So it looked like this, and then I just go like that. So that's good. I think, well, I need to hit invert layer in order for this to displace correctly when using the move tool with weight map fall off. So by doing this now, it's doing the right thing, sort of. Yeah, always forget that it's not really moving. the value of these guys should actually have been, there should have been blue shading here, and it should have been green here, and should have been red here. But texture displacement doesn't work that way. Anyway, what I'll do, so this is kind of crude, but we'll go with this anyway. So go to modify and go to heat shrink and say 99% in the Y channel. So it will be more difficult if you're not mapping on the Y channel or X or Z, but in this case I'm just going to show you the simple stuff. Hold down Control and move that up, and there we go. You can see that we got kind of like this slight curve here, and the reason for that is because I used this Photoshop. Well, this is the gradient that I made in Photoshop, but then I made clones with curve adjustments, and that curve adjustment will cause this curve here, so makes it kind of look cooler in a way, I guess. So the result is this. Crude, yes, but could be valuable. You see that the stuff going on here, let's see, right here is not that nice. You can see that the shading going on there is not that sweet. So I might look into that later on, how to fix that. But anyway, this is how you can map that object onto a bent shape or something like that. So I think that's interesting. So let's take this guy and let's turn off Weightmap, fall off. Just so copy that guy and just move that over here. That didn't work. Copy, paste, of course. Paste. Then move it over there. There we go. So this is just an introduction really to using that technique. So of course this could be instances and stuff like that. You could add variations, but yeah, I think that's it for now. So I might look closer at this later on. Of course, if you thought mapping that texture point thing was kind of like slow, then it doesn't really matter, because you can like have, if you do this in one go sort of, then you can of course create 100 these mechanical panels that have their individual looks, and then add texture point in one go, and also add slicing and stuff in one go. So it shouldn't take all that long time, but again I'm curious to if I can make this look better. Still, for shots where the object is at this, has this distance to the viewer, then it looks good. So might look closer at this later on.